celebrity chefs all the way through to just general bar staff.
It really does seem the pandemic hangover just incredibly important in all sorts of ways that we didn't really anticipate during the pandemic. Let me bring my third guest in, Joe Cox-Brown, Chief Executive of the Consultants Nightlife Economy Solutions, a company that aims to help clients in business, local government, police and those trying to improve business districts. Joe, we've heard about nightclubs struggling. To what extent has that had an impact on all the other things that might be going on in life, like the taxi services, the food offers that have been made around and outside nightclubs? What's the sort of more general picture?
We're seeing that as the nightclubs close, the nightlife is being pulled backwards into the early evening, and therefore that is having an impact on public transport, that is having an impact on restaurants, on takeaways, on taxis. We're also really struggling to get taxi drivers. So if you looked at who was employed in the nightclub economy pre-COVID, it was about 45% of people were from Europe. Those people seemed to have gone home during COVID and haven't returned. So we are finding it difficult to recruit right across the industry, whether that be transport, quick service restaurants, nightclubs, bars, cleaning staff, and so therefore that is having an impact. What we are seeing is young people who go out into towns and cities at night saying that actually they don't want nightclubs as much because they're overly sanitised, overly policed, and therefore we're taking some of the fun out of those spaces. What they are wanting now are more kind of pop-up spaces and festivals, and they're streaming live music into their homes, and therefore they're having smaller house parties or larger house parties in some circumstances.
Well, look, this is absolutely the core of where we want to go. What has changed among the preferences of the young? And Joe, you started us off on that. Peter Mark, talk us through the changing consumer habits and tastes going on.
Well, it's really interesting what Jay was saying there, but we didn't see any decline at all from when I took over in 2009 through to 2019. There is no question whatsoever. It's that cost of living crisis meets cost of doing business crisis that has really switched the whole thing, because most people go to nightclubs are under 23 years old, and these are the people who've been particularly hit.
Michael,
You know, in many cases, when we see things like the frequency of visit, dwell time, and spend start to be impacted by small changes in the environment put on things like Gen Alpha, attitudes to things where
which is Gen Alpha, just to ask you up with the Gen Z.
well, it's the current sort of cohort of youngsters sort of coming through. So you had Gen Z, Gen Y, etc.
Gone
So
back
what
to
they've got is-
Alpha.
yeah, no, even I get mixed up with it. So it's just different sort of attitudes and different requirements. I mean, now, you know, you're talking about no and low alcohol. You're talking about the desire around things like provenance, sustainability. There are a lot more considerations in terms of being an operator. And I think the concern that we have at the moment, in nuts and bolts terms, is the economics are not working for our environment, and the costs are just so onerous. For many of these people, they're just sat there going, I can't make this work. 7 out of 10 of these businesses are either barely breaking even or losing money.
Yeah. You mentioned it there, Mike, alcohol and drinking. Joe, where are we on that? Because I think basically in my old days, if I went out, it would never be a night without some alcohol. And I'm hearing a lot has changed.
Yeah, it has changed. So if we look at the Global Drugs Survey, which includes alcohol, there's been an annual decline of 20% in young people drinking over the last 4 years. We are also seeing what is called the conscious clubbing movement. So the conscious clubbing movement is around young people going into the nighttime economy and not having drugs or alcohol, and that is right across the sector.
Peter?
Interesting. Well, what I would say first of all is that I think the number of youngsters that are not choosing to drink is exaggerated, and in fact that was borne out by a survey by Maidencombe. 25% of them said they didn't drink, and then actually half of that 25% had alcohol on their credit card.
Now this is the subject we were talking about on the programme last
That's
week,
funny.
which is people saying one thing but doing another, makes it hard to read.
As I often say, most people go to the doctors and tell their doctor they're drinking 14 units of alcohol a week as well. And, you know, frankly, you raise your eyebrows at some of this. I think we've not seen a rise in non-drinkers coming to clubs, so it might be that those that don't drink choose they don't want to go to clubs, even though we put such a range on, and the quality of low and no alcohol is so much better than it ever absolutely every type of customer going. Limited food in the Proud Mary pubs. Heidi's just do a simple pizza offering, but it starts just with sort of almost background music, maybe then a little bit of an acoustic guitar or something early on in the evening, but then it gets faster and louder, and we have staff dancing on the bars, and the
Dance floor. There's a small dance floor at the side. A kind of
limited. It's really dance
tables.
where you are. That's the whole thing. But there's a stage. We don't have a dance floor.
Well, that's early. It's basically pulling the night from say 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. back by 3 hours.
Yeah, I think that is a fair thing. But if you go into one of those bars at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday or Saturday, you'd have to queue to get in.
But that new proposition, it'll be less dependent, for example, on students in university town. It will be a broader demographic.
Yeah.
I think just coming in there, I think the interesting part, we've seen a lot of developments about pre-midnight